Hey everybody, Kaysha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin,
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's Elk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the Karis Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the Jay Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigation for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: a house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission, or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the Karis Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the Karis Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate. And we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you everybody for your time and considerations, and thank you for all the support, and we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Karis Project podcast. Today, I'm with, again, Sherry Banman, who's co-hosting with me, and we're going to be talking a little bit about transitioning, or detransitioning, rather. So we're going to pull up a clip or anything like that, and then sort of, do you want to just kind of give a little bit of what you have seen about this whole situation in your area?
The transitioning, yeah, it's definitely something that has been taken to a very unsafe level. Parents and children are now fighting against each other, and the parents are only out there to protect the children and get them believing and knowing that these are permanent decisions. So if this is something that they want to do, then yeah, absolutely, it's their choice to do it, but wait till it's a better age. But what we are noticing over here is that, like I said, the parents and children are fighting, and the children are pushing hard against the parents, saying, and they have the backing of the government saying that they're more than allowed to do it, and if they don't like it, too bad. The government has their back, and which is very sad because families are being ripped apart in every aspect, and the morals behind it, the values behind it, everything. I've watched children here as well that doing the puberty blockers, and some that have actually went for the first surgeries, and they go for the first surgery, and a year later when they're about to go for the second surgery, they realize it's not something they wanted to do and it's not reversible.
Yeah, let's listen to what this girl has to say, because when I saw this online, I was like, well, that explains a lot. And this, I guarantee you, is happening more often than not, and people would care to admit. So let's listen to what she has to say.
Hello everybody, my name is Ash, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a detransitioner. In this video, I want to talk about how society's treatment and perception of women can heavily contribute to a lot of young girls thinking that they are transgender. This played a huge role in why I transitioned in the first place. A sexual assault or a lot of negative male attention, growing up being catcalled and harassed, can lead a woman to equate her worth to her body and what her body has to offer to men. She'll feel like she has no value other than her body, and she'll think that nothing else matters, like her interests, her loves, her hobbies, her family, nothing. This can cause a woman to resent her body, and this can cause a lot of discomfort with it and how it looks. It can also sometimes make them wish that they were a man so they wouldn't have to deal with the treatment of society toward them. This feeling is easily mistaken for gender dysphoria. I wish that someone would have taught me that my worth wasn't equal to my body and that I had a lot to offer as a human being, instead of just putting me on hormones on a fast track. This is kind of a sensitive topic, but I was sexually assaulted when I was 12. I also had a lot of men in my life use me for sexual things, nudes, etc. I was groomed as a child by people online. I've been catcalled when I was 13 years old walking down the street, like almost every time I went out. I began to have this deep-seated feeling and knowledge that my only worth came from my body, and so I hated it. I didn't want to be a female because of how people treated females and the sexism that I faced on a daily basis. I tended to date men who only wanted one thing. I wanted to escape being a woman in a lot of ways because I was sick of it, and I didn't realize how empowering and amazing being a woman can be. Being a woman is an amazing thing. I love it. I love being feminine. I love having girlfriends, and I love the solidarity between women. I was just convinced that I didn't want to be one because I was so sick of being used. And I feel like this goes for a lot of the people who identify as trans, because they just want to escape the way society perceives women. When they realize that they don't have to be a woman, a lot of them don't want to be, because it's hard. It is. You face a lot of sexism. And with how the transgender movement was pushed in like 2020, so many people were like, oh my God, I can finally be happy. And most of them, they aren't actually trans at all. They don't have dysphoria, and they just are confused about the fact that they don't want to be a woman. But that's not because they're trans, it's just because they're tired.
That is so true. So true.
Yes, that is one of the things that we're seeing over and over again. And sexual abuse is a large factor, because if somebody's being if they're going to be sexually abused and molested, and you get a chance to be like something else, there a lot of kids in their mind, they're like, well, if I'm a different sex, then they won't be attracted to me and they won't molest me anymore. Right.
Right.
And this is disgusting that they're pushing this in the schools, and this is what girls like her and other people are saying about this. And
I
go ahead.
I can totally agree because I was that girl, right? I was that same girl at 11 years old. I left home and I hated men for what happened to me. I hated men. I didn't want to be, I was a tomboy for sure. I turned into a tomboy because I had to be tough because I had to keep these men away from me. But, thankfully back then it wasn't something that was pushed on you and like your choice is to go and be change your sex and everything like that. At that time, we were just able to be the tomboy and just carry on. And luckily, I'm one of the fortunate ones who was able to heal and come back out. But now, I look at it, I got the best of both worlds. I can dress up and be all a beautiful woman, or I can go and play sports with the boys. you know but I do understand what she's going through because I did do that same thing. I hated it. And then even growing up into working in the oil and gas industry, right? Being a good looking woman going into the oil and gas industry, you end up being targeted huge, and you have to get a really thick skin because you get harassed in every different level, and you actually have to be quite aggressive right back, verbally obviously, and you have to teach them that no, you don't disrespect me. But I mean, most people don't know how to get through that.
Yeah, and this is where we have a lot of problems. And when you look at what they're doing with the kids in the schools, and she talked about being groomed online, and they're grooming them in the schools and they're sexualizing them and normalizing it. And
Hmm.
when you're looking at this, and then the government says that if you don't do this, we're going to take your kids, we're going to punish you. And when you have girls that are coming out, and I'm sure that's happening to boys as well, that they're being molested and destroyed and sexually assaulted, like what?
Hmm. Yeah.
This is where people have to start taking hard looks at these kinds of situations, because this can't continue. This is nuts. And your government that's like saying do this or else, and they're covering up things like what that girl talked about. What does that tell you?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's literally, I mean, as a child, like they go through so many different stages. Their hormones are completely over the top and overactive and everything like that. So they go through all the changes. Today, it's even worse than ever because both parents are working. Both of them are working. Neither of them have time. So the kids are relying on their friends or maybe strangers or maybe social media or things like that just to get just to get some sort of attention or love or whatever. And yeah, they come across somebody online who makes them feel all warm and cushy and gives them that little bit of attention that they're not getting from home, or that little love that they're being neglected from. And I mean, they don't think they're doing anything wrong. They just see it as it's attention. And that's where the saying comes, any attention is better than no attention, whether it's bad or good.
Well, our society is helping to create the circumstances, and the factors that are driving our societies are making sure that the parents are out of the home. And
Yes.
they like, I mean, I don't care what anybody says, feminism played a large factor into this, and then the sexual revolution that created a bunch of single mother parent families, and then drove people into the workplace and then increased the prices, not just by 20%, but it was like a tripling of the cost of living. So it made it impossible for people to get back into the home. And then it forced women to go out and start getting income because they couldn't make ends meet, because
Hmm.
the fat the salary of the father, when they had a stay-at-home mother that couldn't compete, they couldn't do it,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, and then what ended up happening even there is now these women who have never worked a job or never trained to be a job because they've been stay-home moms all this time. So they've put down that wall of protection because they know they're safe at home taking care of their children. Now they're forced to get out into the workforce, and now they're also being abused.
And yes, and like, I mean, any this is so so deliberate. Because everybody who sits down say, well, oh, this was just accident. No. Or incompetence. No. That's just like telling me that I'm going to go stick and put some dynamite under a stack of logs, blow it up, and it's going to fall into place into as a perfectly formed house. Like, you're
Yeah.
nuts. That's just not the way it works. Like, some of the people, obviously, a lot of people at the front lines of stuff didn't know what was going on. People knew what they were doing when they were putting these forces in play. And there's no what. This is disgusting. And
It is.
our educational system, like bringing in the sex education that was done to push this, and this is parents versus parents. You need to start taking back your power as parents and taking back the responsibility. It might be like tough, but these are your kids. This is your future. No one has a better, more vested interest on making sure that your children become decent human beings than you do, right? The government or the people that are influencing the government to do these things are working against your children, because what that girl said, nobody should be, the state should never be pushing anybody to do this kind of stuff when this type of thing is happening and they're concealing sexual abuse.
Absolutely. And it is every day. And you said it exactly. Like, the parents need to stand up. The parents need to say, okay, you know what? I have children to raise and I'm not going to work. You can pay me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
they need to step back up, and they need to say enough is enough, and have that one parent stay home, whether it's the man or the woman. Like, I mean, if the woman's got a great job, then let her go to work. I mean, if it's the man that's got the good job, let him go to work. But the parents need to come back to raising their children again. They need to stop with this chaos and take responsibility for these children. They don't just pop out children just to, it's not like a cow in a field that they pop out a calf and let it go on its own. No, these are children. These are children that actually need guidance. They need love, and they need affection, and they need protection.
Yes,
And
they
people
do.
need to understand that, and they need to step back up. You know, like, Dale, you and I know, like, we've been fighting this battle for quite some time. I've been fighting it for over 30 years. And, like, the amount of stuff that is going on in the world, and it's so intentional. It's so intentional that it comes directly from the top, directly from our governments. And it's sad to see that, every second house that you talk to somebody, they are going through some sort of, either they are or family members going through some sort of trauma, either drug addiction, or they're going through sexual assault, they're going through runaways, they're going through neglect, they're going through all these crazy situations. And it's literally every second house that you talk to. Before, I remember when I was young, when I was on the streets, I remember that I was like the oddball. There was never people like me out there, and I was shunned upon because I was this street kid that, had to go on the streets to save myself. And nobody understood it. But today, it's more and more, more and more. And you see every single day, you see dozens of kids go missing, dozens of young adults go missing.
Yes. And like, we're living in a society where we've been, and you look at, if you look at, like, for example, Hollywood, like they weigh their forces that were in Hollywood, and you look at all the people, the types of things that you're seeing coming out of there, with all of the abuse, the molestation, and all this kind of stuff that's been commonplace in these types of situations, you begin to start looking at what they were doing, and you can see how they were helping, using the media to groom us, to normalize things, to normalize the violence, to normalize certain types of things that you see prevalent. Like, I don't watch TV. I don't have time to watch TV, and when I did have time, I didn't watch very much of it, because most of it I was just like, this is trash. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing. And then when reality TV came in, I was just like, I need a brick to throw through the television, because it was just like, I just felt my IQ just reduced by 50% while I watched it, right?
And your heart just breaks when you see these new things coming out. And I mean, transitioning is not new. It's not new. It's been around for years and years and years. Same with the gays and lesbians, and you know, it's really sad because, you know, the gays and lesbians have finally, they pushed hard for a lot of years just to be left alone, accepted and left alone. They don't push their stuff in the public eye. They don't, you know, go, you know, if they have it at their, if they have an event, it's a private event for them and they're kind. And yeah, they, you know what, straight people are more than welcome to go too. But do you know that even today, they can't have those events anymore? They're not allowed to have those events unless they add the LGBTQ plus community. And
Well,
they don't want to be a part of that community because they don't agree with it.
no. I was saying this the other day. I'm like, when because I was talking on a live stream, and they were somebody was mentioning in the comments about you know, the LGBTQ whatever, and I'm like, you know what? There are gay and lesbian people and so forth that bisexual whatever that don't agree with this agenda because they're being used to push a narrative, and these people don't agree with it because
Yeah.
when you're sexualizing children, this is insane. Like I listened to like watched an interview me and Kaysha discussed it about Lily Phillips, and she was exposed to pornography at 11 years old.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you know, she talked about Billie Eilish, who was exposed to pornography about the same age, and she said it destroyed her brain. And well, Lily's like, well, it didn't happen to me. I'm like, well, you have no idea how much it damaged your brain because children should never be exposed to that kind of stuff, especially when you have companies like Pornhub that are actually putting out things of people being sexually assaulted. So how do you know that you're not watching somebody being sexually assaulted, or if it was a minor, right? Like these are things that they're giving the children and making profit of it, and they're going ahead and sexualizing children in the schools. They're pushing this agenda so that when women like that poor woman that was raped, right? They're like, oh, here, go into this because you're being groomed into this to cover up what some filthy criminal is doing.
Yeah.
No, right? Like,
And that's the thing. It's all part of the government plan. It is 100% a part of the government plan. Otherwise, they would not want to, you know, use the puberty blockers. They would not allow a male to become a female or female to become a male. Like they're like it's population control too. And unfortunately, they're very much aware that the children don't have the mind capacity to even understand what it's actually doing to them and for their long term, because they know that children are here and now. They need the fix right here, right now. They don't look at a future of 10 years or 20 years down the road. They look at what's happening right here, right now. I don't like my life. I'm happy. I don't like this. I want to change. So they push the kids to, here, you can have this. Here, take this candy, take this candy, take this candy. And that's exactly what they do. And next thing you know, here we have all these children who have started the transition or have done the transition and are trying to detransition. And look at that poor girl, right? Like she's going to suffer for life now.
yes, and then this push that went
Yeah.
ahead in 2020. People keep saying this over and over again. In 2020, there's a big push for this. Oh, what was going on in 2020? Well, COVID was coming in, the lockdowns, things were going out of control and everything else like that. So there was a lot of stress and panic and strain put on people. And what a better time to go ahead and start pushing this filth on your children when your heads are going out of control. A lot of people or families are breaking down, the kids all out of sorts, and then you start pushing this indoctrination. This is not happenstance. That is a complete predatory mindset that created the circumstances for a prime opportunity to start ramming this down people's throats. This is
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you know what I see, and I mean, we're a city of 70,000 people, and I can tell you that out of that 70,000 people, there is a mass amount of families that are broken and children fighting against the parents. It's very disgusting. There's so many families that their children don't even talk to their parents anymore. There's so many families where the children have completely abandoned the family, brothers, sisters, everything, because they just are done. Either they're done with all the chaos in the world and they understand what's going on and they don't want a part of it, or they just don't want. They've been programmed so heavily that they don't understand. The only thing that they believe is what the government and all the publicity and the social media is telling them. They don't actually believe when their parent or their family says, no, this is actually going to hurt you, please stop. So they fight against the parents or the family, and next thing you know, these poor kids are on their own. And it's huge. It's huge.
And this is when they came out and they started to use this children's rights type of thing, and giving children, saying that they're giving children the rights. Children always had rights. What they did was they started to shift the balance of power and give children more authority to rebel against their parents by giving them what they wanted, not what they needed. And if you gave a child a dessert all the time, do you think they're going to pick their food over the dessert? They're going to take the dessert, right? Like you'll give, like they watch a kid. They're like, "Do you want $100? Or do you want the chocolate bar?" He's going to take the chocolate bar because they want it, but they don't understand the $100 bill is more valuable to them because they could get a way more chocolate bars and other things. But they don't see it this way because they're children, and this is what they use those things to do, to create that dynamic of children fighting against the parents.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate too, because that's exactly what and I mean, parents need to start teaching their children from a very young age that a dollar bill is a lot more than what they're putting out. They need to teach their children that your body is your body. Like when I was raising my children, and because of what I went through in life, I even told my kids, your body is your body and nobody touches it ever, 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 ever. You tell somebody, you scream it from the rooftop. And I even said, even if it was me, you do not ever hide that information. You always make sure that you tell people. Because if you're not giving your children the permission to say this stuff and letting them know that no matter what and no matter who it is, you protect them, they're never going to speak up. They're never going to talk about things, and they're never going to be able to come to terms with something that just happened to them. Because when kids go through these things, they don't ever understand. It's 9 times out of 10 because of exactly what that girl said. It's some sort of abuse, neglect, or they're provoked into a situation, and then when they're in that situation, they can't get out of the situation, and then the situation follows through. And that being said, these poor kids today, they have no hope because they don't have parents that are home. They don't have parents that, fight tooth and nail to stop this stuff from happening. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, there are some parents out there that are fighting tooth and nail and absolutely refuse and then have went to jail over this stuff for fighting for their children because they've been told they're not allowed to fight for their children.
Yes, we just need to take a short commercial break here. We'll come back and continue the conversation.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
All right, so there's some new stuff to try out that just came out. There's also a lot of the other products that you have at MyPillow, like the bed, the sheets, the bath stuff, the beds, the pillows, obviously, and other kitchen stuff. So go to mypillow.com/Karis or call 800-845-2942. Use the promo code Karis. And kind of circling back to what we were talking about, when I look at the situation, like talking about boundaries, boundaries are super important. With my daughter growing up, even when it came down to like even bath time, when she got old enough to start bathing herself, you do it yourself, right? Because I don't want to do that, and I wouldn't. You set the boundaries. You go in there by yourself, right? Like if she had a problem with her back, I'm like, you put your back in, I'll come help you with the back, and then I'll go and you go and finish yourself. And when she's old enough, you did it yourself because there has to be that boundary being set, and that so that she would know that if some man is coming into her space like that, and she's like, wait a second, my dad don't do that. Why are you doing that? Right. And I'm like, if you have an issue, come and tell me because then I can help you fix it because, there are things that people shouldn't do to you and whatnot. But if you have a problem, I will always come and help you fix it. Even if I don't like what happened, I will still help you because if you lie, I can't help you fix it. And parents need to start dealing with these things and demonstrating that so that when the kids will come to them and tell them what's happening, right?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. And that's what's happened today. The parents are so scared to discipline. They're so scared to. I don't know. I wasn't one of those parents. I was very even raising my kids. They said you're not allowed to give your kid a swat on the butt. Well, my kids got a swat on the butt because you know what? I didn't beat my children. I never would beat my children. But when my kids got out of hand, I had 4 children, and when my kids got out of hand, they got out of hand together. And there was no way that I was going to be in a public place or even at home and all my kids are going off the wall and I'm going to put myself through that. No, we work together. You definitely got a swat on the butt if you needed it. Not there's a difference between a punishment and discipline. And that's what parents don't understand. Parents, they're told that, oh, if you spank your child, you're abusing your child. No, actually, you're not. You're actually helping your child. You're giving your child some discipline, and you're showing them that discipline is very important. Because I'll tell you, when you get out into the real world and you have zero discipline, and life is out here in the real world is as hard as it is, and you turn around and you have zero, how do you think you're going to be treated in the public eye?
Well,
how are you going to be treated when you get a job?
well,
Right?
I always tell my daughter, I said, I'd rather discipline you than have the law discipline you. Because when I'll have
Absolutely.
mercy on you, they will not. And they will stick you in a 6x6, tell you when to piss, when to eat, when to move your bowels, and all that kind of stuff. And they own you. I said, you don't want that, right?
But that's what they want, right? That's what the government wants. The government wants full control. The
Yes.
government wants these kids following in every aspect of everything that they say. If there's zero discipline, okay, then they get out into the real world and now, oh my God, they're having anxiety attacks and they're having all these problems. So they have to go on AISH and they have to do um, all these tests because they're mentally unstable in their eyes or in the government's eyes. But really, you know what? They just never been taught that it's a tough world. And when you get out here, it's going to be tough and you're going to get beat up. You're going to get emotionally and mentally and psychologically beat up because we are a world of multiple personalities and not everybody's just like you. Right? So they get out here and they just think, oh, well, I have to go on this medicine because this psychiatrist said this or this counselor said that, and I need this and I need that, and I can't work and I have to live on AISH because I don't jive with society. That's not true. It's not true at all. You just haven't had the opportunity to jive with society.
Well, and they made it like challenges in life were a bad thing. And this is when they started to take away the challenges. They were making sure that children didn't pass through the necessary things to help them deal with things in life. Like one thing I dealt with my daughter is that you did something, you are going to get the consequences. I never shielded her from consequence. Sure, I'm not going to let you get killed, but you're going to feel enough to know maybe I shouldn't put my hand on the stove, right?
That's right. That's
Eh,
right.
right? So, like, because there's a lot of parents I watch that they shield their kids, and their kids, a perfect little angel, never did anything right. I was like, I never saw a human being outside of Jesus that was a perfect person, right? So,
Right.
so stop it just because it makes you feel bad. It's like my question is, did it is it true? And I think, what do I know about my kid? What are they like? Is this something that they can see them doing? Yes. Or maybe it's something they just tried, but I want to find out whether or not that thing is true, because if it's true, then I want to correct it. If not, then we'll deal with it accordingly. But this is what people need to start going ahead and doing, not just blindly defending their kid all the time.
That's right. That's right. And that's so true because parents do. They defend, 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 and yes, in their mind, it is a type of protection for your children, but it's also hurting your children. Like I remember when I was raising my kids, my kids would go like I said, I had 4 kids, complete busy, busy, busy kids, right? 3 boys, plus I had my nieces and nephews, so a total of 9 or 10 of them at the house at all times. And so I had a very busy house, but everybody, including the neighbor kids, got disciplined when they come to my house. Then my kids, they would go over to their friend's place, or I'd need a babysitter or whatever. And when I go out, then, oh, your kids are so well behaved, and your kids, and I'm thinking to myself, man, well, they're not like that at home. But looking at it, even back then, they may be crazy and off the wall, and you know just kids at home, but when they go out in public and over to the neighbor's house, they're very well behaved. That means that I'm doing my job right. They know their respect, they know their values, and they know that when they go to somebody else's house, they have to behave. When they're at home, that's their safe spot. That's for them to try and all the new things and do all the crazy things. Yeah, there's lots of things that a parent's not going to like them doing, especially when you have as many boys as I did. But the thing is you have to let them grow. You have to let them grow, and you have to let them be the little person that they are, and let them grow into who they're meant to be, not who you think they should be, because
Well,
then you're programming them.
well, this is where I say that children are genetically programmed to crawl under your skin, right? It's like you
Mhm.
want patience, God gives you children.
That's exactly it. And then, then the saying comes that if you knew kids were this easy, you would have had grandkids first. Well, that's true, because I'll tell you, when you have your grandkids, it's a totally different world. Because you have your children. God gives you children to teach you patience, to teach you the true love of it all, the utmost extreme love that you could ever feel in your whole being. You get through raising your children, you learn all the patience, and you become such a stronger individual because of your children, right? Because of the children and what they teach you, and what it teaches you as a whole, as a person. And then when you have children, you'll get to feel and learn a whole nother level of love that you didn't even believe existed, because you thought you had all this love. So really, as you know, I'm not the God person, but I'll tell you, I'm beyond blessed to be able to understand and know that God gave me my children to teach me and to help me grow, because I was a very damaged person going into having children. But not only that, but He also blessed me with beautiful grandchildren. So now I know the full love that is possible. And then I don't even believe I do, because I don't know God's love, right? I only know that it's unbreakable and He loves all of us. But that's how I feel. But with my kids and grandkids, that's not something that is ever breakable, no matter what your kids do.
Well, and this is where we have to start, and this is where like we have to start doing something differently. Because if you watch each successive generation, you're watching the weakness come in. And a lot of this is because the factors that were not very relevant when we were kids are becoming more pronounced and they're becoming more intense. And it's increasing with frequency and intensity and how much it's being done and where you're seeing it. And we're being inundated to a point where this is just beyond reason. But a lot of people are afraid and don't want to do something. But at the end of the day, if you will not protect your children, who are the most vulnerable segment of society,
Yeah.
who will you protect? And this is where I have to sit down and start saying, people got to start looking at themselves. And I was thinking about this. People's insight is almost non-existent to this day. People talk like about, people having insight. Most people have very low insight. They don't self-reflect very much. They don't care to because it's too hard. It makes them think too hard, and we're indoctrinated, especially with all of this social media, to not think of anything very pressing. It's designed to do that.
Yeah,
Why
it
children
is.
should not be handed technology.
That's right. I agree. One of the things that I kind of teach people when they come into the courses and stuff is the first thing is name 3 good things and 3 bad things about yourself. And almost always they can boom, 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 all the bad things. But when it comes to reflecting on themselves and pulling out the good things, they normally have the hardest time. And you actually have to coach them, a lot of people too. You have to actually, okay, well, what about this? What about that? And then they'll get to a point where they start seeing um, what their true values are. But it takes a lot of work. It's not something that most people can actually just spit out and say, hey, I'm really good at this, I'm really good at that, and I'm nurturing. And you know most of the time it's usually about 4 weeks into the program, then people are becoming confident and being able to say, hey, I actually do see what you're saying. And
That's go
going
ahead.
back to the transitioning, I'm working with a couple teenagers right now who they're just completely flabbergasted that I was a tomboy, and now today I do what I do, and I'm still just as the same beautiful girl that I always was when I was a kid. But they didn't understand that was a possibility. So now I get to work with these beautiful girls, and they look at it as they really never even knew it was an option, because they were told that if you don't fit in, you can just do this. That's it. That's your option.
But they put a very narrow scope on what being a woman is and what being a man is. And they cut out a lot of stuff. And then they put a very, very superficial criteria on what being a woman or a man is, that actually nobody's actually truly doing what they should be doing. And they're developing things that you can just tick on a checkbox and anybody can do it without actually contributing something sensible to society. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with seeing a beautiful woman, but a woman should not be rewarded based on her beauty. She shouldn't.
No,
The-
no.
because it sends a very wrong message, because then
Mhm.
this is fueling the people that go and get all these surgeries and all these things to augment themselves and all of these things. A lot of them are profit driven rather than what makes a woman be a woman, and that's being feminine. Because a lot of this cosmetic stuff most men don't like. Women are
That's
doing
right.
it.
That's right. And you know what? I grew up um like until I was 25 years old, actually. I grew up thinking that I was adopted, thinking that I wasn't loved, and thinking a lot of crazy bad things. And I grew up and I wanted a nose job, and I wanted my teeth fixed, and I wanted this and I wanted that. I wanted mouth job, everything. I wanted it all, until I realized that that is just all physical appearance, and none of that matters. It's who you are inside. But it took a lot of years to learn that, right? And never did get the nose job, and obviously I never got my teeth fixed, and obviously I never got my lips done, because I just don't believe in that. You're put on this earth to be who you are, and be comfortable in your own skin. And when you learn how to truly be comfortable in your own skin, You can accomplish anything.
Well,
Absolutely anything.
I understand there's needs for, like, if somebody gets burned or like has some injury,
Yeah,
then,
yeah, that's different.
but the thing is that a lot of the times people are just there to do these things for all of these reasons because they think that this, again, their bodies is the most important thing, and it's
That's right.
not. It's not saying
That's
that
right.
it's not important and you shouldn't take care of yourself. I'm not saying this. But when you're
Yeah,
placing your value solely on your physical or your physical appearance as the most important aspect of your existence, if your physical appearance fails, you're going to hate yourself. And then
that's right.
conversely, they have a lot of these things for men that are equally as dangerous and
That's
so
right.
forth because they're like, okay, well, I just need to be in shape. I need to make money. And if I'm over 6 feet, then I'm great. Like, then I have everything. No, because you know what? Money isn't the most important thing of a man. You have to be able to love your family and treat them well.
Yeah,
Otherwise, no matter how much money you have, nobody wants to live with a devil, right? And they'll just, people will
that's
come
right.
and try to take your money and have no
That's,
regard for you, right? So these are things that people have to start reevaluating what's important because nobody wants to live with someone that has money that is going to abuse them continually. Eventually, it's not worth it. Your life isn't worth the money.
yeah. And that's another one too. I was working with a gentleman, and he was so obsessed. He's great now, but he was obsessed with the gym. And like seriously, he would go to the gym twice a day for 3 hours each time. So 6 hours a day, morning and night, morning and night. And he came to me and he's like, I'm just obsessed. Like I'm almost sickly obsessed with the gym. Like I just can't get enough. And so we started talking, and he started my programs and stuff. And he is now down to an hour and a half at the most each time that he goes. Sometimes he only goes once, sometimes he goes twice still. But he understands now that it's not his physical appearance. I mean, yes, you have to be in shape and you have to take care of yourself, absolutely. But him too, like, and that's normally what is happening. If somebody is transitioning or somebody's on drugs or somebody's doing absolutely chaotic stuff, it's because they're hiding from something and they're masking something. It's not something that they're not doing it just because they it's fun. They're doing it because they're trying to hide from something, run from something, or mask something.
There's nothing wrong with working out. Working out is good. But
Yeah,
when you see
absolutely.
these guys that are going into the gyms and spending all this inordinate amount of time, that's not masculine at all. It is not masculine. People might sit down and think, "Oh, well, I got big muscles," but what are you doing? What are you sacrificing in order to do that? And when you begin to start examining that, that's the furthest thing from masculinity. Just because you're big doesn't mean you're a man, right? And that's really it. And understanding what men do and what men how they think and how they're supposed to operate to look after their families. If you're spending 6 hours a day in the gym, you're useless to a family. Useless.
Yeah, yeah. Well, fortunately, he didn't have a family yet, so and he has got to the root of his issue and understands what he was doing now. So he is definitely on a upward battle instead of falling to the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I just I used to see guys like, I mean, I've gone to the like I mean I've gone to the gym. I still work out and stuff like that, but I'm doing it at home more. But I mean, when I've gone to the gym, I've seen guys that were doing that, and I'm just like, okay, I get it. Like that's not that's too much, right? That is too
Mhm.
much. Like I understand at some period of time I had to go and do that, recovering from injury and things like that. You had to work harder to get your body where you needed to go. But once you got past that, then you because where do you get time for your to do other things? Like this is where you have 24 hours in a day, right? Eight of
Yeah,
that, well, depending on what you're doing, say 5 to 8 of that is sleeping, right? On an
yeah,
ideal level, 7 to 8 would be great, but we know that doesn't always happen. But we'll just sit down and say for that you got 8 of it gone. right? 8 of it's working, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
16 hours a day. Then you have 6 hours at the gym. That leaves you 2 hours for everything else, right?
But
Like, I
that's
mean,
he was hiding from everything else, and that's why he buried himself in the gym, right? And
well,
that's
yes,
that's that's happening,
addiction.
and that it's happening with the gym, it's happening with transitioning, it's happening with drug addicts, it's happening, everybody is hiding from something. And when people can understand, and like I said, be comfortable in their own skin and understand their own skin, and the traumas that have been put on them, they don't belong to them. It's somebody else's story, right? That's the hardest part. When people can understand that it's somebody else's story that has been put on them, then they start to understand that I can heal from this. And that's the biggest thing.
Well, and one thing with, like, again, with men, and it's with the trauma, like, pain works very different in a lot of ways for men than it does for women. And pain, what a lot of people men are sitting down and saying they're traumatized, I want to reach across the screen and slap them in the face, because I'm like,
Yeah.
no, those are things that you need to develop into a man. That is just the way. That's the way life is, right? And
Right.
they've this whole idea of that we're identical is nonsense, because we need women to be women, we need men to be men, and we're different for a reason. And this is part of this. The root of this whole transgender nonsense is that we're all the same in every way, and that's ludicrous. Like, I mean, that is absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, we worked fine for the last all of human history, being men and women, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the government decides to put a push. Well, it started out, I always go back to it, that. I always go back to, started out with women's lib. Once they kicked off women's lib, then all the women started getting into the field and started to get it, leaving the house. And, even today, like, you see that, oh no, I'm a stay-home dad. And you're just kind of like, what? Oh, okay. Yep. And you have to accept it, because that's the new world today. You're a stay-home dad. So, and then they get the women out of the house. So the nurturing and the caringness, the loving, and all the um, all the amazing things that come from mom are no longer there, because now mom is at work. And I grew up with a mom who was never there, never there. Hence why what happened to me. Um, but I mean, not blaming her or anything like that. It's not her fault. But she worked day shift, she worked night shift, she worked day shift, she was night shift. So when I was getting up for school in the morning, she was going to bed. And when I was coming home from school, she was getting ready to go to work.
Y-
So I never seen my mom. So I understand all too well what that was like. And I wish people would understand, like the women today would understand. Like, I didn't go to work in the field until my kids were teenagers. And actually my boys moved in with their dad. And that's the only reason I went to work in the oil patch, because I'm home alone. I see my kids when they're busy, or when they're not too busy now, because now they're teenagers, and so I still see my kids all the time. But and if they phone me right now and they said, Mom, let's go do this, I would say, okay, I drop everything and go. And that's how I was with my kids all the time. But the thing was, the parents today are not like that. The parents today are, no, this is my job, and you're not going to mess with my career, and this is what I want to do. And the man's going, yeah, but this is your role. You're the mom. I don't know how to nurture the way you nurture. I don't know how to do the things that you do. Can you at least teach me? And the woman's going, no, figure it out. Right? Where the man can't normally and easily figure it out, because the man doesn't come normal, or not normal. The man doesn't come naturally with these feelings and with these nurturing
Well,
abilities.
they will never get what a woman has. They just
That's
won't.
right.
They can help, but they
Yeah.
shouldn't be the one to take it over. Like, quickly here
Right.
before we close, there was something that my daughter ended up learning after 28 years of life, because I couldn't do what a mother did. that it took her, she had to figure it out, because I was like, I had to put her in positions to figure it out, because I don't know this. I don't know how to, and she had a mother would be able to express it, right? Like very easily. And this is the things that people have to understand. And one thing that we should talk about um, going forward is the idea, that dynamic of what happens with stay-at-home fathers, because people sit down and say, oh, it's just, that's fine, whoever makes more money. That's not the way it works, and people don't realize how detrimental that is. This is not
Yeah,
the
exactly.
order of things, and there's a good reason why, and it causes way more problems than it solves. And money isn't the biggest answer. We need to start shifting away and understanding that we can live with less and be more content, rather than having all the things that we want. So, I
That's
mean,
right.
we'll close here with a prayer, and then we'll come back, and that's a good topic for next week on that dynamic. We'll see you guys all again, and let's close here. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us. And help us that we would be able to come together, the men and women, that we get some reasonability and rebuild our families, our communities, our churches, and our nation, to protect the children from this evil wickedness that is being pushed upon us and pushed upon them, and that we would create some safety for them, is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you guys for all for coming, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.